Okay. Well, happy Women's Day today,
Oh,
March 8th, 2024.
hi,
It's
woman. Happy
yeah,
woman.
it's an amazing time because this falls on the 2024, which is the year of the dragon, year of the wood
Mhm.
dragon, and it's all about moving forward, all about finding and gaining that perspective that you're not looking at exactly what this conversation worked at, because Spirit wanted this conversation to happen. And looking at just what will pay you and what will be compensated by you is exactly the old energy we want to get away from.
Mhm.
All right. And it just is still a lot of people sort of get caught in that because they're still thinking the old ways. They're still holding on to something old, thinking that this, all I need is one great dream to come in and I won't do this again. But when you do it and you end up, perhaps it doesn't work out the way you want, you may never be able to do it again. So today's color is purple, as you can see. It is a
Oops.
white, very vibrant purple. And so if you have a crystal, amethyst is a great one. There's another one called charoite. And for many people, that is a really good stone in terms of moving ahead. That's really what the wood dragon resonates to is charoite because, and that's not for everybody. Charoite is one of those stones that will kick your butt. And some of us don't want our butts kicked anymore, you know. So it's one of a spiritual essence that it is a purple stone, but be really leery when you go into a crystal shop. And it is an expensive stone. Like a little stone is like $40 compared to the $5 ones and that are in the little cups and so on. Amethyst is a very inexpensive, and that's a good one. Fluorite is also a purplish color that's also good for
Tan
moving forward, but it's all gentle.
Tanzanite as well. I love Tanzanite.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, Kenzanite is a good one as well. That has also it really forces you to look in the moment, look at the joy in your life. But if we're not there, you just got to say to yourself, exactly where am I, in this process where I'm looking for spiritual awakening, but you want to do it in such a way that it's respectful of the speed that you're willing for this to go through. The Kenzanites are very good, but you got to do a little bit of work before you get to that level. It's like starting in grade 4 or 5 when you're first past kindergarten. It's a little advanced for some energies. They're still getting used to grounding. They're still getting used to the basics. So,
Oh,
that's why amethyst is a safe one. Fluorite is a safe one. The color in that is very good. Sugulite is another one. It vibrates also to purple, but it's a Archangel Michael sort of stone, and that again is a very much a moving forward energy system. So when you are, what are really these levels for crystals? Ah, the crystal. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. When we talk about levels in crystals, it is the vibration that stone vibrates to. So what happens is if I were to put a like these pocket warmers that you could buy in the store, you crack something and it gets hot, and you put that in your pocket, it resonates heat. It resonates a certain heat. If I were to get a little piece of plutonium, which is so hot it will burn through lead, it'll burn through steel, that's a little hot. It's a little too much. It resonates so much. So this stone, in that example, it resonates to a certain energy of gentleness. Amethyst is a gentle energy. And so someone that's just working their way up and they're looking for light, they're looking for ideas, they're looking for insight, that's a good one. The one that say, okay, I'm done with this. I want to get right into this, both feet. Let's just do this. And I got my helmet on, got my seatbelt on, let's do it. Then you get into the succulite and the kenzanite and all the other stones that we talked about, because that is really get you going. And so if you get to a point where it's too much, then you say, it's okay because I asked for this, right? You don't want to give it to somebody who doesn't know really what to expect, because that's not really respectful. I always make sure that a person is close to that vibe. They don't have to be right on it. That's not the point. The point is to be close to it. So if I'm, let's say, in an area where you're looking at certain energies, you want to be able to get at least close enough where you're pulled in, and that stone actually makes you advance. Okay, so when we talk a lot about this, women seem to have the strongest energy for this kind of work. No question, bar none. In fact, a lot of men learn from women of how to do this. Women are wired to do this, and it just seems, I yeah, I don't want to say the word easier, because it isn't easy. It's tough, women. Okay, I get it. It's very tough. But the way you're wired, it is easier for you to do a lot of these things. It just comes naturally. And the difficulty is you're holding yourself back in many cases. With men, they have to move forward just to get anything. So it's a completely different system. It's a different wiring. But we want to really pay tribute to women in this show. So hopefully after this show, you'll get a clearer sense of what Spirit really wants you to appreciate who you are. If you are a woman and you were born that way, there's certain things you're going to learn about yourself and your many ancestors of women that have gone through it. If you are more feminine oriented in that way, the men will start to realize what that energy is all about as well, because it's really all about the feminine aspect of it. And really, to many men, women are described as angels. When we talk to a couple, any couple, pretty much anyone that I've seen and interviewed, 50 plus years, they're celebrating their 50th anniversary or more. And it's said in most of them, and I quote, the man is described when he looks at his bride, that when they first met, he saw an angel. And the reason the relationship has stood the test of time is because that feeling never ended. It was always that very high respect. And going back 50 years, when a person's married, they're in their 70s, 80s, and above, right? So this is where it all comes to pass, where different people, different keynote speakers said it very beautifully. Those of you that know Leo Biscaglia, he used to be a professor at the University of Southern California, and they called him Dr. Love. That's all he talked about. And you'd think that a person with a PhD, what on earth is he talking about love for? And he always described his mama as being one of the biggest influencers in his life to bring in that energy. There was a family of 6. He had 5 brothers and sisters and himself, and they went through the Depression, and it was not easy. He remembers at one point, and in his early years, age 6 or 7, something like that, when the family had a really hard time in the Depression. They couldn't find a job, and there was literally no money, no food to feed the kids, and they were doing all kind of odd jobs, mom and dad, and so on. And there were many instances where there was just nothing. When you have a slice of bread, could you imagine that slice of bread? You have to share it with 4 other people. A slice of bread. We're not even talking a loaf, a slice. And so this is how they were existing for a long time. And it was tough, he said. Then he says, and the kids came home from school, and the husband came home at approximately the same time. They noticed that there was a table full of food. It was just like there was chicken, there was all kinds of sauces, and just a meal, a salad. There was pies, and the husband says, "What's this?" She says, "Don't worry about it. I sold the ring. Now get up, shut up, and sit down and eat, and enjoy yourself. We have been depressed for too long. We're not doing this. It's important for this family to stick together, and we're gonna enjoy ourselves and have some fun." She knew all about energies, and women just instinctively know that. The ones that seem to forget are the ones that are more connected to their masculine side. Like they have to see things that are real. They won't even act unless they see it in front of them. They have to see their city they're driving to realize, okay, that's where I'm going because I see it. However, in life, it's not that clear, is it? You want something, most of it is going to be you don't see it. But there's an instinctive feeling that women have that men are constantly grappling with, and if, bless their soul that they're constantly reminding us men that it's okay. It's all about faith. If something's happened to you, you forgive, you find a way to forgive, and you move on. You look talk to grandmothers, it's all about that. You just forgive, move on, open all the doors and windows, even if it's in the middle of the winter. In feng shui, that's a big thing. But women just knew this. They didn't know feng shui. They didn't know all these, but they just felt, okay, guys, we got to open up the doors. It's just too stale in here. And what they were doing is changing the chi, changing the life force in that home, because in feng shui, they also know that the woman's energy are in the walls, not the man's. The woman owns the home. The men own the garages. There's a reason for that. We don't have the time to go into that. But women own the home and they're in the walls. So they instinctively know what the home needs. I need to get refreshed. So they open the doors and windows for at least, 20 minutes. And when they close it, it all of a sudden gets nice and toasty because you've refreshed all that stale energy. And before, the fireplace could go nonstop and it's still cold. It's stale energy. You can't heat stale energy. Okay. They knew that. Another quote from Elvis Presley was when he said his father died, he was sad. But when his mother died, he was devastated. And in a quote, he said, she was always my best girl. With all the women, he said that I was in my performances, none of them came close to the energy of my mom. And we're not saying that in the sense that of attraction. It's just that it was a big thing that he was always trying to cater to his mom. He bought her a big Cadillac, 1959 Cadillac, and I think it's the longest vehicle, the heaviest vehicle ever made. That's what she wanted, and so she ended up getting that when he was really high in his performances. Another one was John Lennon idolized his mom. And the article goes up by saying when he was while he was growing up, his mother was free spirited. She was a free thinker and constantly encouraged him to play. After his mother died, he went to his aunt, and it was the exact opposite. His aunt said, don't play. I don't want you to play. It's too noisy while you're practicing because you're not playing very well, or whatever the reason was. But the point was that all the songs that he made when his mother passed away was an inspiration for him to create music. That was idolized in the music Let It Be, Come Together. And then later in life, he wrote Imagine, which is one of the top 10 songs, if not the top 5, ever wrote in history. Imagine. I still make sure that I don't do anything. If I'm working on something, I pause for those 3 minutes and listen to that song. And I've heard it hundreds and hundreds of times. And I can't get enough of it. There's something in the song. And it's not something that it's just simple. It's hard to describe. But women are like that. It's easy to love a woman that's simple. There's no complexity. There's no drama. And I don't know what it is with some women. Men just can't get enough because it's just so easy to love a woman. The reason women impacted lives for men and future generations is because they are the core of creation. In other words, they are part of our DNA. DNA is described as the blueprint of life. We hear from scientists that it dictates who you are, what you are, and 97% of your DNA, you could be anything. You could be a tree, you could be a rabbit, you could be a horse, you could be anything. And it's the last 3% of the DNA blocks that create you, your hair color, your eye color. It creates everything about you. And so it's that last end of it. And sometimes when we are overwhelmed with things in life, we have 95% of the things that are against us. And women still say, no, there's something here, there's something here. Maybe that's part of it because they're part of the DNA knowing I got to get to the last 3% before this comes through. It's interesting how women are able to read something even though it's not directly in front of them. And it's not only the fact that every person on this earth has come through a woman, every single person on the earth has come through a woman, but it's also has impacted the DNA of your ancestors. Okay. And of course, the indigenous know this all too well. Anything that has happened, I think we covered this in another class, where if you're past, going back 300-400 years or more, and especially the indigenous know this very well, where their people were, let's just say they weren't treated with the utmost respect. And they were tortured and they were killed. And the women in that tribe and in that culture carry the DNA of the future generations to come. And so here a person is coming in and they're in that tribe, they're in that indigenous bloodline. They don't understand why they're so down all the time. And nothing has been done to them. They didn't do anything. And they don't understand what that energy is all about. Well, this is where it comes in. And women pass that on. It's not the men that pass that on, because a lot more men died in the Second World War and in many wars previous to that. And we don't have the same. Yes, we do miss grandpa, no question. We do miss uncles and brothers that were in the war, absolutely. So no disrespect intended for the veterans. However, from an energetic perspective, the women that also perished in that war, as they were, carried a much more significant. When you found that mom died or your sister died in the war, it was different. Not saying it was better or it was more, it was just different. It's a different energy because that was also connected to you in some way. But we feel this energy and we wonder, what do we do with this now? Now that we have this, it might not actually be something within your lifetime. It's something that your ancestors had, your grandmothers, your grand sisters, and all these very ancient woman-oriented energy that has been passed on, and now you feel it for some reason because you're part of that bloodline. Okay, you go back far enough, and you're going to really find that many of the women carried the brunt of a lot of the work and carried the brunt of a lot of the things that were going on, including trauma. But they found ways, their own ways, ancient ways to do it. You want more ideas? We do have a video on ancient ways that we did a while back. If you want a copy of that, let me know, because that was a very good segment about that. But tragedy didn't just happen directly to us, because that's how we can get that immediate response. If something happens to you directly, then you could somehow work with it. But what do you work with something that you just feel, and it's a thing, but you don't know what it is? Okay. So that's another thing we want to talk about. Spirit wants to just mention, because when we were children, many of us had episodes we went through. Some kids have traumas and tantrums, and just they're going through something, and it was not met with the highest of respect at the time. Because when a person's 5, they're going through stuff, and that when compared to a person that's in their 20s or 30s of having children, they said, oh, well, you have no idea what life is all about. So when a 5-year-old sort of melts down because they didn't get the snack they wanted, or you wouldn't buy them something in the store because whether you were just limited with money or you just didn't want to buy anything, and then they went through an episode. How many people, I don't need a show of hands, because those of you that resonate with this, how many people were penalized when they went through a negative episode as a kid? Okay. In other words, we were penalized for feeling something. We were penalized for having a negative aspect to our life that we just didn't know how to handle it, and we just sort of released it. So what did we want? At the time we were going through this episode, we were expecting unconditional love. But what we got was, no, that's not happening. They're trying to change you. And then they were saying something like, well, we're only going to love you if you are good. Be a good little girl, be a good little boy. So it's conditional. So when we go through that episode of that, then and how does that look? Fast forward 20, 25 years. You're going through an episode and you're thinking, okay, I have to love myself. I have to accept myself. And people are saying, I have gifts. I have to accept those. But then you're not accepting those because you don't think you're good. You don't think you're good enough. You don't think that you measure up. So is it any wonder that we can't find self-love? Because we're going through something when we were 5 that was never addressed. And so how do we manage that? How do we look at how that all comes together? Because when you're a kid, you feel you're not heard. Things are done for you, and they just want you to be good so that it's not so hard for the parents. And that's respected as a parent, and with all the long hours you have to do and the stresses of going through just raising children, and sometimes you just don't know where the kids are when you come home, where the kids are when they're going through things. We weren't taught how to work with energy. Schools don't teach it. When was the last time somebody in your class in grade 5 said, okay, this is how to work with energy? If you're angry, I want you to take it out of your heart, have it in your hand, look at it, and sing, I love you. To a kid, like it could be like a 20-second lesson. And it works. I do it to kids all the time. I do it to adults and pretend that they're a kid, and it works like a charm. But how come it's not taught in school? That's another subject. The point is, when we are going through things, we don't know how to mitigate it and how to answer some of these things that we're going through, right? And then all of a sudden, we go through all this thinking that, okay, I'm beyond hope. I'm beyond any reckoning that I can exist or go through an energy that I love. And then all of a sudden, a woman comes along. The women are the most patient people. And if this woman is really connected to her feminine side, then she'll listen. She'll go to that dark place with the child and write exactly where it is. And so how do you feel right where you are? I feel ridiculed. I feel embarrassed. I feel angry. I feel fear, and whatever the other emotions are. I says, okay, just know I'm here for you. Is there anything else? And then the child is allowed to speak, to say whatever is going on, and saying, okay, now I want you to take all that emotion, okay? And I want you to put it all in your hand. Okay. How does it feel right now? Oh, it's not good. What color is it? Is it heavy? Do you feel that it wants to tell you something? Why is it so angry? Not why is the child so angry? The child's being poked, that's why he's angry. But why is this energy separation, right? Energy angry. And then the child responds however way. And when a child responds to when you say, why is this angry? The child automatically makes that separation and realizes, well, it's this energy that's angry, not me, this energy. And how did it get there? Well, I guess I allowed it. Okay, well, we can release it because it wants to be free. Do you want to be free? Yes. Okay. I want you to blow white light on it or blow some butterflies on it or any other things that this woman would tell this child. And for those maybe 15, 20 minutes, most of that time, a mother would not have the time or a father would not have the time to do it. But let's say a woman, it could be a sister, a teacher, it could be a coach, it could be a friend, it could be anyone that is surrounding them, but it's usually a woman or a man with in touch with his feminine side would go through that child and give it love no matter what, realizing that a negative emotion is exactly that. I am being poked, I am being prodded, and I feel angry. Okay, well then what's prodding you? What is this energy that is doing this to you? Because You didn't come in as an angry person. You came in as a baby that was happy and joyful. So this is something outside of yourself. So dealing with that, and as soon as you deal with that, you learn, you give a child a tool of how to work with energy that they will never forget. I just about teared up the one time I heard my grandson. I heard that my son woke up in the middle of the night and my grandson was screaming. He woke up with a nightmare. And a couple of weeks before this particular night, he says, "Yeah, I really feel sort of afraid of the dark. I see monsters." I see, "You do? Okay. Well, let's play a game." So we locked ourselves, both of us, in one of the bathrooms, and it's pitch dark in there, and he doesn't like the darkness. And I gave him a little pen light flashlight. You turn it, and then the light comes on. And so, okay, turn on your light. So he turns on his light and he says, "You know, one thing that monsters don't like, they hate light. So what I want you to do is take the corner between the ceiling and the wall where they meet and just run a line all in the corners because that's where the monsters hide. Go up there, go down the one side, and then so we're focusing not on monsters, we're focusing on the light, right?" And he, oh, and then sort of I was in there and I go, "No, no, don't do that. Just playing, right?" And so as he's going, he's starting to laugh. He's laughing in the dark, like which is unheard of, right? And so he's going through this and he says, "Okay, how does it feel now?" And monsters are gone. And he remembered that in the middle of the night himself at 3 a.m., he got his little pen light battery or pen light flashlight, and it was right beside his bed on the nightstand. And he started tracing the walls and the corners. My son comes in. He said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" He says, "I'm clearing the monsters. It's all better now. Bye, Daddy." And when I heard that, I said, "Wow, that was just for fun." And he remembered. He's 5. So it gives him the opening that now he can do something. He doesn't have to take it all. And so that's a huge, huge thing forward when we're doing things like that to teach your children, teach your kids how to work with that energy. I read someplace the following quote. It says, "If a man meets a woman as a friend and she listens and goes to his dark places and spaces and still likes him, he will fall in love with her soul." And shortly after that, now Spirit is such a genius because shortly after that, literally within 3 minutes, my phone popped up and it was a quote from Apple. And I says, "Okay." And they said, "Read it." So, okay, I opened it up and I said, "Well, I didn't find it right away." And then it was at the very bottom. And then the quote said, "If a man loves a woman's soul, he'll end up loving one woman. But if he just loves a woman's body or face, all the women in the world will not satisfy him. To him, she is a treasure, not a trophy. And to him, she's always enough." Isn't that beautiful? When you are connected to the soul of a woman, that's way deeper. And of course, everything else is a vastly different experience. And then it showed different videos. I went on to Instagram and just because they told me to look at different things. And it was an elderly man, and the woman was in a wheelchair, and she couldn't really raise her hands anymore. And he combed her hair, and she put on her makeup, and he says, "You look so beautiful." And then he took the wheelchair and they went to the park. And I go, "Okay, okay. If a man is just attracted by a woman's body, he'll never do that. I could speak from experience. Never do that. But you got to be connected to something deeper. And women have that depth. That's the point. Women have that depth. Men have to find that depth through women. Okay. So it's really a blessing when women can show us these kinds of things. Another thing they said regarding a woman, when a man starts to speak about his feeling. Now, this might want to jot this down. Spirit is saying, when a man starts to talk about his feelings, This is where the woman needs to be silent. In other words, be patient, because the man wants to tell the truth about his deepest, darkest places. He wants to talk about his demons. He wants to talk. And in some ways, you need to almost count to 30 in your head, because many women will interrupt or get in there, and then the man will just shut up. When a man starts to talk, you let him speak, and everything will come out, but he'll take his time. And this is so unlike women, because women, don't you like to chat? I mean, women in general, they love to chat. They talk all kinds of things, and for them, it's joyful, it's fun. We talk about they talk about the drama, and literally in 10 minutes, you could talk about absolutely everything, and you're jumping from leg warmers to cars to like there's so many subjects, and there's no way that a man could keep up with that kind of thing. So, but from a masculine perspective, men like, and so if a woman has more masculine energy, she will be more reserved. She's not a chatty person when they're more masculine, and you can usually tell by how assertive they are. They're very on the bar, like a manager of a corporation, and they have to be like a man. Not to say that's derogatory or anything, but they have more man energy, where everything they want instant results. They want you to watch your P's and Q's, and they're always micromanaging. Woman never does that. In that feminine energy, they have no interest in following you. They just want you to do your best, and they leave you alone. And then people will produce because you have faith in them, that things will go okay, that things will always turn out. Women to just have that instinctive ability. Okay. Now, you probably have heard many instances why women live longer than men. There's a lot of theories out there. There's a lot of actual hard facts that, because perhaps, let's say, women cry, they have this ability to cry very easy. They release a certain emotion that men do not. And when men keep it in, that sort of, it's like holding back a sneeze, or it's like a pipe bomb. Women also have many other traits in which they have a higher threshold of pain. Obviously, with childbirth, if one man were able to give childbirth, they would never have a child again, ever. So we just we have a cold or a sniffle, and we're at home, with the airplane and sort of thing. But we like to think outside that we're strong, but women have this inner strength that men are always trying to resonate with. They always want to be around this woman that they just have. How do you know everything's going to be okay? We have all these bills, and you just list all the things that could go wrong, and it's okay. Things will be fine. It'll all work out, and it does. And we can never figure it out where that instinct is coming from, because you are creating it. You're the creation in all of this. Of course, the person that paints the picture knows how the picture is going to turn out, because you see it in your head, and then you take that vision and you put it on canvas. That's what I'm teaching my grandson now. I said, I want you to think of something, think of a car or a house, or think of something in your head. And based on that picture, I want you to draw it. And so what does he do? He's looking around the room. Oh, there's a penguin. No, 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 no. It has to be in your head. So, okay. And he looks over. He says, no, no, that's not. I want you to think of something in your head. So think of a triangle. Do you see the triangle in your head? Don't look at anywhere. You see the triangle? Yeah. Now draw it. And so he drew an equilateral triangle. And that's unusual for a child. Usually they'll do one that's misaligned, but equilateral means equal sides. I says, that's interesting. What color is it in your head? He said, it's orange. Okay. So I'm already teaching him to be like what the woman traits are. They see things in their head, and then they create it. That's what women have that trait to do. But there's probably something that you don't know about women. And so Spirit wants to relay something. Did you know that if you've ever had a child, whether you've been you've conceived and had that child, or it was a miscarriage, the DNA cells remain in that woman permanently for the rest of her life. In other words, if you've had 2 or 3 children, the part of that DNA of the child, most of it obviously goes through, but part of it stays in the woman, and it's there to protect her when she gets sick, when she falls down, injures herself, or is depressed, or many other things that goes on. Those scientists can now measure that these group of DNA cells that were her children, where they were planted, goes to the aid and starts fighting that disease, starts fighting that virus or whatever it is, so that they can save their mom or be part and be supportive of their mother. And men don't have that. So on top of all the other things that go on, when the creation happens, it's always there to help you and create things to you. When a person has had at least at least one child, and sometimes many times there's miscarriages, or sometimes you won't even know. I'll ask one of my clients. I says, "Okay, I see you have 3 children." And he says, "No, I only have 2." He says, "Okay, have you ever miscarried?" "Never." I said, "Well, Spirit says there was one that was only like a few weeks or a month. You wouldn't even know because it's so small, like a grain of rice. You wouldn't even know. It might just be a clot." Um, but anyway, I'm getting there was a child there, but it just didn't go through the whole 9 yards. It just wanted to come in, feel the creation, and leave. I said, "Okay, but because of that, I want you to connect to it and heal whatever's going on in your back, heal whatever's going on." And we're already working with these energies already. And scientists are now catching up. They now have instruments that could measure on a minute scale what cells are doing and the stimuluses it takes for a woman to be healthy. And that's what you are. You're this marvel of nature. And so many women think they're not enough. So many women, because other men have told them they're not enough, or that there's something wrong with them, or there's something wrong with your family, or there's always something. And it's usually instigated by a man. And when I took a course in feng shui, it was a 2-year program. One of the first days we had what we call sharing. I might have mentioned this in another class, but just to be short, we had to go through and what your life was like while you were young and where you are today. And I was but the third last person they were going to come to, and every single person had traumas and just horrible things done to them by a man. And I was the only man in the class. I said, under 27 women. You might think that would be a dream. And I tell my guy friends, I say, "Oh, that's good. That's a great thing. You're surrounded by women." "Yeah, but these women want to heal. They don't want me." The last thing they want is another guy, you know? And so when it came to me, the first thing I said was, I had no idea women were treated this way. The way I was treated, if I didn't, worship a woman, or, with my mom, pull a chair out, or if I'm with somebody, if a woman came in, and I was like 8 and I was taught how to treat a woman well. That's the way I was brought up. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but that's the way I was brought up. And if my father saw that I was disrespectful to a woman, any woman, even a waitress or whatever, I said the wrong thing, he says, "No, no, we're not doing this. And we're surrounded by people, so I know I can't hit you, but we're going to chat when we get home." In other words, it was really brought in that I had to respect a woman. So I thought everybody had that. When you're 8, you think everybody's going through this training. And then you get in and you find all the horrible things that men do to women. And I still don't understand domestic violence. I don't. I just don't get it. Now, when I was in my early years in doing my businesses, I went through many horrible things with my business and a lot of high stress. And the kids sometimes were acting up, but I never hit them. Yes, I went downstairs, put holes in walls because that's what I punched, but I never hit my kids. I would rather hurt myself than hit my kids. So that was one thing that I always had there. And if I was in the car, I'd hit the steering wheel. So I went through more broken steering wheels that I could think of because they were all just plastic and, but in the end, it was the way that I found that I had. I didn't know there was another way. I didn't know you could meditate and do this. And I wasn't drinking. So I wasn't a drinker. I wasn't a smoker. What do you do? So I turned to anger. And it was anger just at myself and the things around me. So it wasn't until later I realized that you could curb that with various techniques of meditation and the things that I do now. And now it's not an issue. But when I look back, it's just amazing how I had a boundary. Some guys don't. And it wasn't until I got into this energy business in this energy field, I realized, okay, well, if you don't have any boundaries, then you will hit your loved ones. Not because they're wrong, it's just because you feel so much hurt inside of you. The hurt's got to come out. And it's unfortunate that we hurt our loved ones. And so for that, all those women, I want to apologize from all the guys that has ever hurt you in any way that they had no idea. They don't know. They weren't connected to their feminine side. They were all man. And that may seem like a compliment, but it isn't. I try to be as disrespectful as possible to that energy because when we are only masculine oriented, then not very nice things happen. It's only when we can bring in the women energy, the feminine energy, and have a nice balance is when it's beautiful. And then they will be able to look at a woman like an angel and treat her as such, as she deserves. In this meditation, I want you to think about perhaps something that is still around, that is still bothering you. Now, when you look at the news and some of the things that are going on, it doesn't paint a pretty picture. But just realize that many of those energies are all masculine based. They're all based on money. They're all based on control. They're all based on all the things that women aren't. Women don't want to control anything. They're the first people to let a bird go, knowing if it comes back, it belongs to them. Okay. So, but if there's still any part of it, if you're also a woman that has always been sort of shoved aside and you've never really had a chance to speak, no one ever heard you, and you're always looking for somebody and no one else stepped up, you're always hurting and you're always at a point where nobody's listening, then as a last resort, it's always you. You do have a masculine side. And as we know, the masculine side takes the bullet, takes the trauma, takes all the depression, takes all the things that are going on and just holds it in. That's what it does. It's like a chipmunk. It just holds all those nuts in. And when we hold it long enough, it becomes prickly. It becomes very judgmental. It becomes snapping back at people. And if that is happening, then it's the feminine side of you that is just a little under the weather and just a little bit less of an issue. And so it needs to console this masculine side. And I want you to take whatever it is that's bothering you, whatever depression you might be going through, or whatever thing that you're not being heard, you don't think you're enough, or whatever other feelings that you're feeling, realize that they're real and they just are unaddressed. Some of these energies will go back to your childhood, literally 5, 6, 7, 8. That's where most of those occurrences happened. And I just want you to say to yourself, I'm here for you, even if it's just me. I've never left. I've been in your body the whole time. And now we need to work together because no one's stepping up. And so just bring that to yourself is just ask yourself from this thing, what do I need to know? What is my next step? Just different questions that you might not know what this energy is. Is it something from your ancestors? Is it something from an older time. What is it? And let's bring it in the open. And from there, we could see if we could heal it, turn it into a butterfly, and let it go. And then for the first time in your life, you'll be able to address something as old as it is, if you're still holding on to it. Breathe in the color purple. Okay, big deep breath. And when you breathe out purple, just see some of you will detect little bits of black or gray spots in your exhale, or some people will see oil, or some other people will see smoke. Okay, whatever it is, just keep breathing in that and bring it in to any part of your body that feels that it is under the weather. In other words, if it's something that you don't think you're loved, it's going to be more like close to your heart. Okay? If you think that you're not enough, that you need to do more things, it's going to be in that solar plex area, that yellow area. So breathe that in, put it there, and when you breathe out all of it. So all that tension is out of your body. Remember, you are you. All these other energies are real. It's not you. It's just hanging around. So when we breathe it that way, it'll work a lot better. Okay.